Well, shalom everybody, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. We're up to page 221. We're still in chapter 11. We will be in chapter 11 for a little while yet, and we are looking at the subject of rikilut and lashon hara. Rikilut is essentially tattletaling, saying something to somebody that you heard somebody else say about them that was negative, and obviously lashon hara is saying something that's truthful, but is delivered to another individual or group of people in a way that undermines that individual or sheds them in a bad light. And from there, we looked at the subject of taking revenge, hatred and revenge. A lot of ill speech is rooted in hatred. But then we just sort of began to look at revenge in general, the concept of revenge, and how refraining from taking revenge can be a good opportunity to elevate yourself, provided you're not refraining from revenge because you're intimidated or frightened of somebody. Somebody doesn't lend you something, something out of their shed, like a farming implement, a spade or a wheelbarrow or something, and then 2 months later they come over and they want to borrow, a couple of eggs. Is that your opportunity to sort of take revenge, or is that your opportunity to show the neighbor how they should really be acting? So that's an opportunity for you to go, okay, here, sure, you can have these. And you do the best you can to remove from your mind the incident where you felt that you were slighted by your neighbor in some way. So degrees of revenge is part 31 of chapter 11. Obviously, the overarching subject is the details of the quality of nikiot, that is purity or cleanliness. How to live a pure and a holy life, how to live a set-apart life. So let's get into it. This is part 3. Those of you that have just joined me for the first time, maybe this is the first video that you've actually clicked on. We are going through Rabbi Avigdor Miller's new translation and commentary of the Mesillat Yesharim, The Path of the Just, originally written a few hundred years ago by Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, which is a classic work in the Jewish world. And is this 4-volume set that has been put out in the last couple of years, is absolutely a must-have book. Okay, so let's get into the topic of degrees of revenge. Now, the author will present examples of this mitzvah of not taking revenge or bearing grudges, which is li sikom and lo sator in Hebrew. While we are learning them, keep in mind that the mitzvot of taking revenge and bearing a grudge apply even more to relations between husbands and wives. The Mesillat Yesharim then goes on to say, because the Yetzer Hara continuously riles up the heart and constantly seeks to make at least some impression of memory of previous hurts, and it is unable to leave if it is unable to leave a big memory, it tries at least to leave a small memory. Rabbi Avigdor Miller says, instead of wiping it off the slate of your heart entirely, you feel something remain. I should hold it against him or her no matter what. The Mesillat Yesharim says, the Yetzer Hara will figuratively say, if you are willing to give this man that which he did not want to give you when you needed it, at least don't give it to him with a very friendly countenance. Or if you don't want to do any harm to him in return for what he did to you, at least don't do him any big favors or don't help him very much. And if you do wish to help him very much, at least don't do it in his presence. So even if you have the ability to go take the higher ground and not repeat the way you were treated when you asked for something and weren't given it, you may in return give what you've been asked to give by that individual down the track, but you may still do it in a begrudging way. And so you have to annihilate all of the traces of ill feelings that you have toward that neighbor's reaction to your needing to be met and not meeting that need. So you have to just completely, as much as you can, remove it from your heart. And in this instance, those of us that are married, we spend a lot of time with our wives, us men, And so there's a lot of opportunity to, upset a partner if you're, living out of each other's pockets, so to speak. So you've got to be willing to completely wipe the slate clean of any wrongdoing by a partner, because we're not perfect either. And so we would want them to do the same for us, essentially. And so it keeps this harmony alive and well in the marriage. And it avoids you slowly putting a little bit of garbage on top of another little bit of garbage. And then by 10 years' time, you just see this big pile of garbage over your original feelings that you had for one another. And so this constantly regulates that and removes these little sort of residues of muck that can over time really darken a couple's relationship. If you help him in his presence, it will show that you are forgiving him. Let's say a wife is angry with her husband. She'll make supper, she'll make supper, put it on the table, and walk out of the room. But she won't serve it while he's there, in order not to demonstrate that she forgives him. So the wife may still make the evening meal, but instead of calling everybody to the meal, she'll just leave it there to go cold, and people will come down and go, "Oh, Mum's still angry," or "My wife is still angry." Or don't renew your old friendship with him. If you do, let's just go back to the Mesillat Yesharim there. And if you do wish to help him very much, or at least don't do it in his presence, or don't renew your old friendship with him. Even though you won't harm him and do favors for him, the old friendship shouldn't be renewed. So if you forgave him, that's Rabbi Avigdor Miller saying there, even though you won't harm him and you do favors for him, the old friendship shouldn't be renewed. If you forgive him so that you don't appear to him like an enemy, that's enough. And if you do desire to join him once more, but don't show him as much affection as you did in previous days. And this is what happens in relationships. Over a period of time, in a lot of marriages, they slowly erode, and the erosion of the marriage is almost imperceptible. So the husband does something wrong to the wife. The wife, her affection for him drops by 0.5%. And over time, if it keeps dropping by this 0.5%, then it becomes quite significant. So people who had interaction with this married couple, maybe haven't seen them for sort of 10 years, and then they were to catch up with them again, they're like, wow, things have changed between you guys. And the couple themselves, they didn't even notice it. If you forgave him so that he didn't appear like an enemy, that's enough. And if you desire to join him once more, but you don't show him as much affection as you did in previous days. So you effectively, your friendship or your partnership in this marriage isn't what it used to be. Even if it's down by 1%, it's not what it used to be. Keep it at its peak all the time, and that takes work and it takes effort. But if we don't even acknowledge that that's a thing, how we got any fighting chance to not be near the end of our lives and just constantly want to be at each other's throat? And I've seen that with a lot of people who have been married a long time and they're elderly. They've just, they've both weathered so much with each other. You can just see that they're, I'm stuck with him now. And it's like, that's a terrible attitude to have, 20, 30 years into a marriage. You're thinking, well, it's too late now. It's not like I can, get out of the marriage now and start a fresh life with somebody else. I'm old, I struggle to get around now. That's, how terrible is that? So you want to still be, holding hands, in those very mature years, those very distant years. All this applies to husbands and wives too, and so to all similar forms of diplomatic stratagems of the Yetzer Hara with which it tries to persuade people's hearts not to forgive entirely. I forgive you about 80%. Sometimes people do take time to forgive though as well, so you have to bear that in mind. Therefore, the Torah came and made a rule that it's all inclusive. Now, if you can forgive in a short space of time, that's great, and then work to that. You don't want the Heavenly Father to take time for you to sort of be allowed back in his presence. You want to be back straight away. Like the prodigal son was, straight away taken back into his father's house. So you don't want to sort of have a prolonged time. It's going to take me a few years to forgive him. No, it won't. Just don't make it a few years. Do it quickly. Do it as quickly as you can. Oh, but you don't know what he did. Oh, okay. Okay, so now you're on the line. because you're putting you're putting yourself in the place of the creator of the universe when he's going to be judging you at the end of time. And so he's going to say, yeah, no, I can't let that one go. Oh, please. Well, no, listen, let's have a look at your track record. Look at all these people you interacted with, particularly your husband or your wife. You took ages to let things go, and you didn't even fully let it go. How am I going to treat you any differently when you couldn't even extend how you wanted to be treated by me to others? You should love your fellow man like yourself, without any difference, like yourself, without any amendments, without any stratagems or afterthoughts, like yourself, literally. So you don't, you and I do things wrong. Or you do something wrong, I do something wrong. When we know we've done something wrong, we can't say, I can't forgive myself. And people say that, I can't forgive myself. Yeah, but you seem to still be getting on with life okay. I think you have forgiven yourself pretty quickly and pretty effectively just by telling me, as honestly and as openly and as heavy with a heavy heart as you possibly can muster, that you haven't forgiven yourself. Well, it looks like you've done a pretty good job of it because you're still employed. You're still able to drive a car. You're still able to cook a meal and feed yourself and wash your clothes. I don't see how you not being able to forgive yourself has really had any effect on you at all. So maybe it's just lip service that you haven't forgiven yourself. Of course you forgive yourself. When you do something wrong, you're the quickest to forgive yourself than you are anyone else. Extend that to other people. And that's one of the secrets of loving your neighbor as yourself. You should make up with him and like him just as he did before. You should make up with him and like him just as you did before. And this happens. Couples have arguments and then they all of a sudden are in each other's arms, and it's even better than it was before. And you've had this disagreement, it's actually brought you closer. That can happen sometimes. This is what the Torah expects of us. It's not lifnim mishirut hadin. It's not sort of optional piety. It's not kind of selective righteousness. I'm set apart, but I'm only set apart when I choose to be set apart. Although it's not easy, that's what the law requires, and we'll leave it there. We'll keep it short and sweet. So I hope you got something out of that. Degrees of revenge. So if you have a disagreement, you have an altercation, and you've made up your mind that you're going to forgive a person, forgive them completely. Don't just do it 80%. Well, I forgive you 80%. I'll still make you dinner, but I'm no longer calling you up for dinner. I had a situation where I had a disagreement with my partner, and I thought, well, listen, this morning, instead of taking up a coffee to my partner's bedside, I'll just shoot through and hop in the car and go straight to work and not even say goodbye or give my wife a kiss. Because last night got pretty heated. But I went, no, because that's just going to cause her a worry throughout the day. And then I'm going to be worrying what she's worried about. And I was just like, no. So I went up, made her the coffee, gave her a kiss, and I looked her in the eyes and I said, I hope you have a fantastic day, sweetheart. And it was done. We had our disagreement and it was finished. It was buried and we were back on, like it was before. So just don't hold a grudge. Don't just go, all right, well, I'm not going to, because this whole tradition of you taking a coffee up, placing it beside the bed of, the side of the bed of your wife, giving her a kiss goodbye. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing that you do. And if you ever stop doing that, then it's just the slow death of a marriage, and you don't want that to happen. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye for now.